pleasure to invite you to peacepodcast.org. I'm Barbara Gonmueller, and I am higher than a kite. Why? I just got off an hour and a half with Gordon McInally. Is that how you pronounce your name, Gordon?
Yes, it is. Yes, that's as close as I'm going to get it.
People have been saying President Gordon. I don't think they have the courage to pronounce your beautiful Scottish last name. I'm a Hungarian, so I'm used to speaking a lot of languages and understanding that the name is really important. When you say somebody's name, say it with all the love you have in your heart, because that translates into the relationship. So with that, I want to introduce you to our President International. This is his last month as president, but he's not going to go away. Rotary has been so fortunate to have him as our president for 1 year. He has traveled the world, hoping that what he says allows you to see your potential for peace, your potential in Rotary. And if you look behind me, you see peace is possible. I was the past chair of the Rotary International Group for Rotary Action Group for Peace. And look at behind Gordon, creating hope in the world. Think about those words, creating hope in the world. And with that, I welcome you, Gordon.
Thank you.
Your president's messages in the Rotary magazine have been such inspiration to me. I have quoted you so often. I feel that you have made Rotarians worldwide realize that peace is possible. And at the end of your year, could you tell the world the progress that you have seen as you have traveled around the world with Rotary? Where are we today on the peace? I guess we could, the peace needle. Have we moved the peace needle? And thank you for being our guest.
Well, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity, Barbara. It's great to be with you, and it's always good to talk about peace. I'm a great peace advocate. I'm very privileged to be the Peace Laureate for the Sino-Philasia Peace Foundation, and that was a great honor that was bestowed on me in Manila in the Philippines earlier this year. But I also believe it's a great honor that was bestowed upon Rotary and the recognition of the work that Rotary does in the field of peace. My philosophy on peace is very simple, and that philosophy is that for us to create a more peaceful world, we have to build it from ground level up. As people may know, I am a dentist by profession. I believe that prevention is better than cure. And it's much better to prevent conflict from starting than to have to try and cure conflict that is already embedded. And in Rotary, we create peace in everything that we do, because we create peace by giving people clean water and sanitation. We create peace by giving people an education, by improving their healthcare, by improving the environment in which they live. And that's something that we do day by day, week by week, month by month. And so to answer the question, have we moved the peace needle during this past 12 months? Then I think we have, because we have done interventions in the areas that I've just referenced in so many different parts of the world. We have lifted people up in so many different parts of the world. And I believe that as a result, we have reduced the likelihood of conflict from starting. Because conflict starts when you have inequity and inequality. Conflict starts when people feel that they're being marginalized. And if we can improve the conditions for people, it might not happen tomorrow, but it will happen over time that we will see a reduction in conflict.
I couldn't agree with you more. Are you more optimistic now than you were when you started your tenure as president?
I believe I am, because I've had the opportunity to see with my own eyes exactly what we are doing in the work of peace building. And I've traveled the world for the last 12 months. In fact, traveled the world for most of the last 24 months, because you do a lot of international travel when you're president-elect as well. And time again, I've met people, I've met individual people who have benefited from the work of Rotary and for whom life is better today than it was previously, thanks to the organization that is Rotary.
That is so beautiful. I so appreciate your words. You know, your words have healed so many people. I have talked to people who said, I heard Gordon, and then I smiled again. You know, people are sad. There's a sadness that's kind of like an epidemic around the world. And we have a responsibility, don't we, Gordon, to be that happiness, to be that enthusiastic person for peace to whoever we meet and wherever we are, right?
Well, absolutely, because the other thing that we have to recognize that very often peace starts within ourselves. And if we're not at peace within ourselves, we'll never be able to help build peace throughout the world. We'll never be able to help create hope throughout the world. And so, personal peace, personal well-being is a very important part of our mission. And that has been one of my missions as president, has been to address the whole topic of mental health and well-being and to encourage people to be open about the way they feel and to share the way they feel, because by sharing the way you feel is the only way that people can then begin to step in and help you. If you don't tell people how you're feeling, you cannot have people helping you to feel better.
It opens a conversation, doesn't it? I'm feeling like I was watching television the other day and somebody said, when I need help, I call somebody and say, this isn't my best day. Can I have a conversation with you? You start with those feelings, but I want to bring up something you said at this meeting we just attended. You said you can change enemies into peacemakers. I love that. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, I came to that. I had the theory in my head, but how I came to that conclusion was a visit I made to Rwanda back in March. I've been working in Rwanda for over 20 years for Rotary. We started there in 2004, working with the orphans of the genocide against the Tutsi that took place 30 years ago in 1994. But I was in Rwanda most recently in March, and two things happened on consecutive days. The first thing that happened was I visited the Genocide Memorial in Kigali, not for the first time, but I visited the Genocide Memorial in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda. And as I was going around the memorial, I went into a room that I'd been in before, but I stepped into a room that just has rows and rows and rows of photographs of the victims of the genocide. And for some reason that day, I was transfixed by all these faces that were staring out at me. And I was standing there for, it must have been 25 or 30 minutes, just looking into these people's eyes and trying to imagine what they went through 30 years ago during that terrible 100 days of conflict in Rwanda. And I'll not lie to you, at that point, it was going through my mind, is peace possible? Not peace is possible, but is peace possible? When these sort of atrocities can happen then, and we both know that these sort of atrocities have happened elsewhere and are still happening in the world. And I had a very sleepless night that night. Heather would bear it out. I tossed and turned all night. I stared at the ceiling. And I thought, maybe this whole concept of peace being possible is not such an attainable thing after all. Maybe it's just a pipe dream that we have in Rotary. But the next day, something happened that changed my view, because I went from the darkness of that first day into the light of visiting a peace and reconciliation village called Mbio, which is about an hour away from Kigali, and which has enjoyed the sponsorship of Rotary over the years. And when I went there, I met two people. I met a lady called Jeanette and a gentleman called Tassian. Jeanette was a survivor of the genocide. She was 16 years old in 1994, and she witnessed her entire family being butchered with a machete and then thrown into the ditch like pieces of trash. She then had to go into hiding for 3 months to avoid becoming a victim herself, and she told me she had lived in the most unimaginable conditions. The man that I met, his name was Tassian, and he had been a perpetrator of the genocide. He'd been part of the militia that had been going around killing people. And he told me that he had a machete and he had lost count of how many people he had killed. But all he knew for certain was, and I quote, it was a great many. Now, you have these two people, one a survivor of the genocide, the other a perpetrator of the genocide. And thanks to the peace and reconciliation process that's taken place in that country, thanks to the peace and reconciliation process in that village, which is dedicated to peace, these two people can now live together in harmony and at peace. And that was one of those Damascus moments for me, because that confirmed in my mind, peace is possible. It's not a case of is peace possible, peace is possible. And I would say to anybody who questions, is peace possible, think of those two people. Think of Jeanette, think of Tassian, who went through what they both went through 30 years ago, but now they can set aside what's happened in the past and say, yes, we need to live in peace. We need to reconcile what has happened, and we need to ensure that it never happens again.
What an amazing opportunity you had to watch two people of different backgrounds become one under the banner of peace.
Absolutely. And there are several things that have happened during this last 12 months that I will never forget, but that is probably the principal moment of having served as president of Rotary, was to meet those two people and just to have it confirmed in my mind that peace truly is possible.
And I'm going to say, as long as we are alive, you and I have a privilege of sharing this story. Stories are what people remember. And sharing the stories, like my husband, when he saw the French shooting the Germans and the Germans shooting the French, and they were cousins, did he get depressed? Of course he did. But then he made a resolution. I will work for peace. I will not have my grandchildren visit this horrible situation just because they're alive. No way. And so he had a dream. I want to work for peace. And his father said, I pity you, young man. You'll make no money. There's no such thing as a peacemaker. But he got an invitation to join the first group of interns at the United Nations. And I tell you that story because our dreams for peace will come true. I know that in my lifetime. And I look at Gordon and I see peace. Look at all the Rotarians you have touched with your message. The world is crying out for peace. We start small and we think big. Why not, right, Gordon?
Absolutely. As I say, we have to, if you're building a building, you have to start with good foundations. If we're going to build peace, peace is a process. If we're going to build peace, if we're going to create a more peaceful world, we have to start with strong foundations and build from there. And the foundations are certain areas of focus within Rotary, because every single one speaks to the subject of peace, not simply the one that says peace, but all the other 6 as well.
And you know, you who have had the obvious privilege of hearing Gordon on Zoom have a responsibility to share this message with your community, become an international city of peace. You know, my grandfather always said, Barbara, you're going to be a peacemaker. And I said, Grandpa, I hardly even know what that means, but he left Hungary because he wanted to avoid war. So it's in our DNA, isn't it, Gordon?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that, you know, some of us everybody's here for a reason. And I think the reason that you're here, and perhaps the reason I'm here, is to try and make the world a more peaceful place for those successive generations. I look at my 2 granddaughters and I think we need to make the world a better place for you kids.
Thank you for saying those words. Thank you for writing a message in the president's message each month and giving us the courage to move forward. Well, my husband did do one more thing. He created with Pathways to Peace the International Day of Peace, which is coming up September 21. That's 100 days from now. Think about that, Gordon. We have this International Day of Peace that is on all the calendars, and we have our responsibility to be more optimistic, to share peace. If you had a dream, what an individual a Rotarian, or in Rotary or in a community, what could they do on this day that would bring peace to our planet? That's a big question. I'm sorry. Give me your little answer.
Well, I think the finest thing that any member of Rotary could do on the 21st of September would be to tell a non-Rotarian, somebody who's not yet part of our Rotary family, just what Rotary does in the field of peace. Because I believe if we could tell more people about what we did and tell them on a one-to-one basis, then the opportunity would be for us to increase our membership, to create even more peace, to build even more peace. So on an individual level, that's what I would say to anybody. Go and tell somebody who is not already part of Rotary just what Rotary does in the field of peace. And then we can start to really make some inroads into this.
Well, you know, it's very interesting, Gordon, because that's my joy, is to share peace. So I was in the parking lot of a grocery store and I said to a woman, I'm working against war. War! I hate war. I don't want to have. I couldn't talk to her anymore. She went ballistic on me. So then I read your comments in the president's message, and you said, the world is crying out for peace. So the next time I was in a parking lot, I said to the lady I didn't know, you know, our world is crying out for peace. She got very calm. She listened to me, and I could talk to her. And I have to tell you, the words, the world is crying out for peace, opens the conversation. And so I said, and I'm working to bring the awareness that war doesn't work, to bring peace. What can you do? And I asked her the question. She told me what she could do, and that started the conversation. So, Gordon, your words, the world is crying out for peace. And the words that you wrote, we must aggressively wage peace to bring hope in the world. Do you have any further messages that will inspire Rotarians around the world as they listen to this peace podcast?
Well, I think that message about working for peace is so important, and you know, I would repeat it, and I don't think I could improve it in terms of, you know, we need to wage peace as aggressively as those who wage war. You know, all it takes, and it's not my quote, all it takes is all it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing. And the trouble is that too many good people do nothing, and therefore evil prevails. We have to have an uprising of goodness. The good people need to actually step up to the plate and say, you know what, I'm gonna wage peace as aggressively as the war makers wage war. And then we will see a more peaceful society. I'm convinced of it. Because deep down, I believe everybody wants peace. Almost everybody wants peace. And it's just the few hotheads who create the conflict in the world. And the war makers are very few compared to the majority.
That everybody wants peace. The world is crying out for peace, to quote you again. And it sure does make a difference when I start to talk about the world is crying out for peace and to listen to you. Just think about the 200 and some people who heard you this morning. They were so motivated, so excited about the possibility that as a Rotary Club or as a Rotarian, they can make a difference. You know, you said something very profound. You said, build peace from the ground level up.
Yeah, because peace is a process. That's the important thing to remember. Peace is a process, and we have to build it. It's not simply an end result. We talk about peace. You know, let's stop a war, therefore we have peace. It's not as simple as that. We have to build peace from the ground level up. And in Rotary, as I said in the meeting earlier today, we're very fortunate to have a partnership with the Institute for Economics and Peace, which is a wonderful institution that does a lot of wonderful research into situations and places in the world. And they have data, they have research that proves that peace will grow in areas where people have all the things that Rotary can provide: better education, better healthcare, better living conditions, better environment. All these things build peace. And that is why we need to build peace as opposed to creating peace from the top down.
I love that. Build peace from the ground level up and create hope in the world. It's up to us Rotarians and us people who live in the world of peace right now to share the peace that we feel. I'll never forget Martin Luther King saying, I cannot remain silent when war is going on. How many people like Jane Goodall have sat silently in a place that needed her peace and our peace? So, Gordon, I thank you for being our president on behalf of all the 22 or 35,000 clubs, for the millions of Rotarians around the world. I thank you for carrying the banner of peace to the clubs and for writing a message that says, we in Zoom, invite your neighbors in and do a Zoom call. Talk about what peace means to them and talk about how they can be part of the peace solution. And with that, I am Barbara Gon-Mueller, and I thank you for joining us. You know, this program is brought to you because we want mutually assured survival, not just for us, all living things, the plants, the animals, the oceans, Our world is counting on peace. Think about peace as a way to solve our environmental problems. Think about that. Think about the environment when you're trying to work for peace. Rotary is so lucky to have Gordon, and Rotary is so lucky to have you. You people who have watched today, I thank you, thank you, thank you. Gordon, do you have a last word or a dream for our world now that you're going to have the luxury of sleeping?
Well, my last word to the members of Rotary watching this is two words, and that is thank you. As I have said on more than one occasion, I'm always conscious that the president is not the individual who does the work of Rotary. The work of Rotary is done by every one of our 1.4 million members. And I will be eternally grateful to our members for everything that they have done this year to help build peace, and everything that they will do in the future to help build peace. And so that would be my final word, but it's not one word, it's two, it's thank you. If we speak in French, it's one word because it's merci. Italian, it's one, grazie. But I thank everybody for everything that they do to help build peace.
And I thank you, Gordon. I thank you for being so optimistic, to creating a world of hope. And I thank all of you for joining us. Invite a friend to watch peacepodcast.org. You have 135 choices, and find something that resonates with you. And may I just say this to you all. Because of Gordon, today I fell in love with Rotary all over again. I listened to Gordon talk about the people who benefit from the work that we are doing as Rotarians. And because of Rotary, we now have a new president coming our way, and I hope you'll be able to join us when Stephanie joins us. And with that, Gordon, again, I thank you. I thank you for being who you are and for bringing your heart to the world.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Thank you for everything.
My pleasure. God bless you all, and enjoy your world, and be sure to work for peace. It works because it works for all of us. Peace be with you, and love you.